We've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to give you guys some specific examples of things. So now we're going to move on to the next thing, and we've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to give you guys some specific examples of things, products that you can engrave. Like what could you even engrave on site at a market? So there's so many things out there. Like, it is wild to me how many things that you could potentially engrave. If we're going to talk in terms of materials of the product, whatever it may be, I would say starting off with leather and wood are your best route because they are very simple, very straightforward, and generally engrave pretty quickly. Even some of the larger things on both wood and leather generally engrave faster than, say, like stainless steel. Now, for specific products you could do at an event, pens are a really simple one that you could start off with. Keychains are very, very popular for me. I do both leather and wood keychains, so you have both of those options. Bookmarks, you could do long bookmarks, you could do corner bookmarks, you could do the magnetic bookmarks. Magnets are another one that you could engrave on site. If you are entering into the holiday season, which we're not quite there yet, but we're already starting to get close to that, starting to think about it, that would be ornaments. Ornaments is another really, really popular one. Like I mentioned, I started on-site engraving at events in September, so I went through the holiday season, and ornaments were a huge hit to be able to engrave on site at a market. So some of the things that I just mentioned have both a wood and leather option. So either one, honestly, you just have to choose your preference. I would say play with both of them and see which one you enjoy engraving. I personally enjoy doing both, but I do know of other laser businesses who don't like doing wood. They prefer acrylic, or someone who doesn't do leather, they prefer wood. Really, I would suggest just playing with those things, but wood and leather are a great starting point. You could also do stainless steel jewelry, which is something that I currently do a lot of. At this point in time, the jewelry that is personalized on site is probably the bulk of what my sales are. I do have other things as well, like I said, all the things that I just mentioned, I offer as well, but I find that the jewelry tends to sell more. So that is something that's definitely an option. And of course you have necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings, like there's just so many different options when it comes to jewelry. But something to keep in mind when you are considering jewelry is the amount of time that it takes to actually engrave these items. Things like wood and leather are going to engrave much faster than something that is stainless steel jewelry. On average, my stainless steel jewelry takes about 2 minutes to engrave on site, and generally my wood and leather items take anywhere from 30 seconds to 45 seconds on average. That is something to keep in mind. There's been a couple of times where I've been engraving jewelry and it had maybe like a really bulky font that was being engraved, and it took a little bit longer than 2 minutes. It took, I think I had one, the longest thing that I've had go at a market was 8 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes, I think. It was a pretty thick font of what they were wanting to have engraved. It was actually not jewelry. It was actually a stainless steel money clip, and the font was a thicker font, and so it did take a little bit longer to engrave. But that's the longest thing that I've ever had go at a market. Generally, like I said, it's about 2 minutes. So that is something to keep in mind as well. If you're going to be offering jewelry, it might take you a little bit longer to fulfill those items for your customers. There are so many other different things that you can engrave, but I think that's a good starting point. And then you just kind of branch out from there. You'll get ideas as you're at markets, at events. You'll hear people asking you for things, or you'll hear people be like, oh, this would be cool if you had whatever, right? Like, you'll get ideas as you go, and you'll learn about new products and things like that. So starting out with the simpler items, I would say, is definitely the way to go. The next thing that I want to talk about is actually my experience with the foot traffic at markets and events when I started adding on-site engraving. As vendors, we know that it is so important to have foot traffic going into your booth, because the more foot traffic you get, the higher chances of getting more sales. I think that there's a lot of things that contribute to foot traffic coming into your booth, and if I'm being honest, the biggest thing that I think will contribute to getting foot traffic into your booth is going to be your booth setup as a whole. When customers are walking through a market and see your booth from a distance, that is going to get their attention first before they even realize that you have a laser there. So making sure that is really, really impactful is going to be super duper important to get that foot traffic in. But then of course, when people see that you have the laser and that you're doing personalization on site, that is going to be something that is going to also intrigue interest, which will keep people in the booth. And then in turn, others walking by will see people in your booth being like, oh, well, what are they looking at? What do they have in there? I do think that the overall booth setup is so, so important. But anyways, let's get back to the foot traffic. Did on-site engraving bring more foot traffic to my booth? I would say yes, it did increase the foot traffic in my booth, but not solely because I just had the machine there. I did have to do a lot of talking about it. I did have to do a lot of showcasing it and doing actually like engraving on it so people could see it in action. I did have to mention it a lot. I do have a sign that says something about laser engraving on site. And so it's not something that innately just increased my foot traffic into my booth because I had engraving. But when people started to learn and find out that I had engraving, then yes, I would say it increased my foot traffic. The idea that I mentioned before of people staying in my booth a little bit longer to wait for their products or what have you, look at what could be personalized, picking personalization, all of that, they were staying in my booth longer. And so then that cued to other people who were just walking by like, oh, what's going on in there? What does she have in there that these people have been in there for a minute? This is all subconscious, right? Like it's not something that people are actively necessarily thinking about, but that kind of concept. And so more and more people would be coming into my booth to see what was going on. Okay, so yes, my foot traffic increased, but now did my sales increase? Yes, it did. It 100% did. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, because at this time in my market area, I know of one other person who's doing on-site engraving. They only specialize in jewelry and they don't take it to every single event that they do. I know that for a fact, at least at this time, at the time of recording. When I go to markets, I am the only one who does on-site engraving at any of these events. And like I said, I don't just do jewelry. I do also do the wood and the leather items, keychains, bookmarks, pens, journals, all the things that I listed before, I do offer. And so when people do find out that I am doing on-site laser engraving, it does increase my sales as well. People love being able to personalize things, and having it personalized on the spot, made the same day there at your market, is just an instant gratification that they're getting to experience. That also causes an increase in sales because they're like, oh, I love the fact that I got this right away. And then they'll come, I've actually had multiple times where people will come back, they're like, oh, actually, let me go ahead and get another one because like I just thought of so-and-so's birthday coming up or so-and-so's retirement coming up, and this would be a great gift for them, right? So I have had that happen where because they get that instant gratification of something personalized made right there, where they come back to get more for other things that they know they're going to need a gift for, that they normally would maybe go on to Etsy or someone else's website and then get it made, wait for it to be shipped, or have to pick up locally and all of those things. So just having it done there on site at a market right in front of you eliminates all of that, and they get it, boom, right then and they're done. I will say one thing that I have realized and learned is that on-site engraving is not meant for every market. I have done some where I hardly sold any laser engraving personalization, and it's not that I didn't have foot traffic to the booth or intrigue or interest in it. It was just some markets, the price point of my items is not necessarily suited for those events, where I've had markets that I didn't sell very much personalization, or I sold a few of my less expensive things. Other events that I have done that are in different areas of town, that are focused on a different audience, tend to do better. I couldn't tell you specifically this specific type of market is best suited for engraving, or this specific type of market is not best suited for engraving. It just varies. But that's going to be the case when you're going to a market just in general, whether you're engraving something or not. So yeah, anyways, all of that to say, yes, my sales have increased. Lastly, I wanted to talk about some of the pros and cons. The pros, it definitely brings a lot of intrigue and interest to your application when you are applying to these markets. Now, I will not say that it will ever guarantee you to get in, but it does, I say, pique the interest of the event host, because they're like, ooh, this is cool. This is a cool concept. That has definitely been a pro for me. There was actually a event that I recently did, which was a large concert event, and I was invited out to be a vendor specifically for on-site laser engraving, and that's all that I did at this event. I don't think that I would have gotten into that event had I just been doing the motherhood and positivity focused glass cans, shirts, and other accessories. Another pro is that it has actually opened the door for a lot of other collaborations and orders and products being produced that are related to the laser. People see the laser, they hear about it, they learn about it, and then they're like, oh, ideas. And because I'm there doing it on site and we're having to wait, you know, anywhere from a minute to 2 minutes, we get to chat and we get to talk about these things and connect about these ideas that they have or projects that they're working on or what have you. Okay, so let's throw in a couple of cons, because I'm not going to say that this has been the most perfect, smooth process of doing on-site engraving. The elements outdoors affecting the laser. And I currently don't do very many outdoor events. However, in the holiday season, I did do quite a few, and I did run into some issues. The biggest one being the sun. Basically, what was happening is the sun was tricking the laser into thinking that there was a fire happening, and in turn causing a false fire alarm to go off. So then I would have to basically power down my machine and like reset it. And so that was something I didn't know was a thing and I wasn't expecting. And so when it happened, it was at an event at a market where I was trying to personalize something, and it was just very, very bright outside. There was no clouds in the sky. That was definitely something that was stressful in the moment while I was trying to personalize an order, and I thought that I almost had to put away the laser completely, which would have been a big bummer. But luckily we figured it out, didn't have to do that anymore. But yeah, the elements definitely play a factor into it, as well as heat. I am in Texas, and Texas heat is brutal. So during the summer times, I don't generally do markets, especially outdoors ones. The heat was definitely another weather factor that impacted my laser. At Coffee Fest, I did run into this issue where by the end of the day, it was so hot that my machine was like barely running. Luckily, by that time of the day, you know, things were kind of winding down, coming to an end. So it wasn't like putting away the machine, I would be like losing out on anything. But I do remember the very last thing that I ran, it did take a minute to get that to go and run. Once it started running, it was fine, but it was the linking it from my computer to there, because my computer was hot, the machine was hot, like it was a thing. So would not recommend keeping it in excessive heat, because it could potentially damage your machine. That was the one and only time, and honestly, I wasn't expecting that level of heat that day. That was... Anyways, so the weather can definitely impact things when it comes to the laser. I have had rain as well, but I always cover that, and if need be, I move it and put it away or hide it under the table so that way it does not get wet. Because obviously electronics, we don't want that to happen. Another con that I have experienced is when things are running, it does take a little bit longer for certain things to run, and sometimes that can hurt me when I am trying to run things and I have, you know, a line of items to personalize. So this specifically comes into play when I'm talking about jewelry, because like I mentioned before, jewelry does take longer for my machine to engrave. So I think that's it. My pros and cons I don't think are too crazy. Honestly, it's pretty straightforward when it comes to actually like setting things up and running it, which I do have a video about how I set up the X-Tool F1 for on-site personalization at a market, so I will leave that link for you guys as well. So you can see it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward to set up, And so that's one of the reasons why I love X Tool. And you know, the cons that I mentioned, there were just small things that were a little bit of a learning curve. But you know, there's workarounds. And if you were looking to see if there's any like major negatives about offering on-site engraving, I personally haven't experienced very many of them. I hope that this was helpful. Overall, I will say I do think that having on-site laser engraving is so worth it. The investment has definitely well paid itself off, and has brought me so many other opportunities and collaborations and connections and projects and things like that that I would not have had if I did not take my laser out with me to an event. So if it is something that you are thinking about considering and you are able to make that investment, I would highly encourage you to go for it. There's so many ways that you could use the X Tool F1 to bring engraving to various places or various things that it's so great. I absolutely love it. But that is all that I have. If you guys have any more questions or you want clarification on anything, leave it down in the comments, let me know, and I will do my best to answer those for you guys. As always, if you found this video helpful or informative in any way, give this video a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. It helps out me and my channel so much. I thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.